Podmas, Christmas time, 30 days, Podmas is here, Podmas is here.
Hello, welcome back to another day of Podmas. You've just got me today, running solo for a quick review for a game that has come out today. This episode comes out on the 20th of December. The game that I'm going to be talking about, you'll have seen it on the thumbnail, we've seen it in the title, is Fountains, and it releases on Steam today. I'd like to thank the developer John Pywell and Game Press for giving us an advanced copy to review. Really exciting thing that we're hoping to do a bit more of, but couldn't think of a better way to start this trend. We did one once a while ago with Starship Vagabond, but that was a little while ago. But now we're hoping to do this a bit more regularly. They'll usually be solo episodes, but they'll come out when we're able to get those review copies. So the game that we're talking about today is Fountains. Fountains is a 2D isometric Soulsborne style game with pixel art graphics. Now, the pixel art off the bat is really key to the game and the experience that you're going to have. You start the game and it asks you to input your name, and the input name screen, you do it letter by letter, and it's very reminiscent of classic like Game Boy games. It feels like gaming in a bit of a gone era, but it's presented in a way that's really familiar, and it brings you in immediately. Another way that it brings you in is you start the game with the screen that says, "I trust you know the prophecy, and here's what they don't dare to record." Essentially, the game is about the fountain of youth. And it says that a usurper was foretold to arise from within their own ranks. You are in a massive setting within Fountains. I was absolutely blown away by the size and the variety of levels on offer. I say levels, it's more like an open world, but areas within the one big open world. 1 minute you'll find yourself at the castle walls overlooking a city with a really beautiful pixel art in the background. There's parts where you're in caves riding mine rails, then you're in underground aqueducts where there are monsters like the Kraken attacking you at all times. But we start off and the camera is panning across the world, and you get to see all this really beautifully put together pixel art. It's quite minimal in its delivery, but it's minimal in a way that is really bold in what it's trying to show you. Everything that John Pywell has put together here is intentional, and it feels like he's trying to tell a story with the opening of this game. I really like that it pan across the world and you saw what you were getting into, but it followed a crow to 2 or 3 different checkpoints. And where we leave the crow, there is 4 or 5 guards and someone who's clearly their boss, and they are forcing someone into what looks like a bottomless pit. And it turns out that the person that they're forcing into that pit is you, the player. You enter the pit and you are greeted in a very Souls-like way by someone who says everyone who came before you has died and won't make it out. And I think that one of the things that I really appreciated about this game is you can see really clear inspiration from the Dark Souls series. You see messages on the floor, you see fountains, which are your bonfires, you see messages that you'll see from Dark Souls, like if you try and open a gate from the wrong side, the wording is exactly the same in Dark Souls and on Fountains. But it doesn't feel like a knockoff. It doesn't feel like the game developer has gone, well, I love Dark Souls, so I'm going to do exactly that in my game. It's fresh, but it feels really familiar because of the retro delivery of it. As with any Soulsborne game, you can imagine that there is an emphasis on bosses and combat, and really slick, tight combat. And I'm really happy to say that Fountains delivers exactly this. The combat is mainly based around swordplay, and there isn't a traditional leveling system. That's one of the things that they didn't take from Dark Souls, but you can upgrade your equipment as you go by finding much better materials for your sword to be made of. And whilst fighting the enemies in the game, you have essentially a sword slash. There is a ranged attack, but I didn't find it to be too effective, so I didn't use it too much. But a sword slash and a dodge button. And I found that when I was dodging enemy attacks, and the enemy designs are really interesting. They range from flies to one of the bosses called the amputated kraken, which I thought the design was absolutely excellent. It says very clearly when you start the game and you're going through the tutorial area that when you dodge, you are invincible. And the game really makes you focus on this when you are playing. So there will be enemies where you are fighting them and their attack feels like it's absolutely impossible to walk around or to be far away enough from for it to not be effective. But the dodge rolling in this, if you time it well, you'll escape unharmed from this enemy. I think that I've said loads of really good things about fountains, and that's because there's loads of really good things to say about it. There is areas which I found a little bit more tricky. I found sometimes that the timing of the dodge rolling wasn't always the most responsive. I played this with a controller. The game encourages you to play with a controller. And when I first started out, I found I was dying a lot because I felt like there was a slight delay between my dodge roll and the roll happening on the screen. The other thing that I found quite tricky, and I think this is an intentional thing, and I think that it's not something I would change, but it's something I really struggled with in the game, is quite a lot of the boss arenas are absolutely massive. There will be points where you can't see both sides of the boss arena on your screen, and as a result, you will find yourself in a boss fight where the boss isn't visible. And there's a couple of boss fights where they have moves that can really come at you from a very long distance that felt so quick that you weren't able to react in time. Each boss is really memorable. They have really unique attack patterns and mechanics. I think when you get through each one, it will leave an impression on you. Like I've said a few times, the game's really hard, but it never feels unfair. And there's a real emphasis on learning bosses' attack patterns. The first time I went into the first few bosses, I was very gung-ho and I ran straight to the boss and I thought I can learn this on the fly. What I adapted my play to be was go to the boss and don't attack and just learn what they do before I'm ready to attack and feel comfortable with. There was a few bosses that I played that really, I think I probably spent between half an hour and 40 minutes on. That isn't a negative. That, to me, when I finish it, feels like an achievement. And it's part of something that I really love about the Souls series. The game itself has come to us in a really, really good state. The game itself is about the fountain of youth. As the game title itself is called Fountains, you would imagine that the game centers around these. As I said, these are your bonfires, but one of the key mechanics in this is the water from these fountains. You can use it for healing, you can use it for magic. I didn't really use magic too often because it didn't feel too effective, but you use it for healing, you use it for magic. I found myself using it mainly for the healing because I got hit quite a lot in this game. I don't think it's very often that you get a pre-release copy of something without glitches in, and I was really happy to say I didn't experience any glitches, anything I didn't expect within the gameplay itself. I'd really, really encourage anyone who's interested in pixel art, isometric games, or Souls-like games to pick up Fountains. Like I said, it's a solo developer, and I think if I told you that, you wouldn't have expected that to be the case. Fountains feels like a really polished and challenging but fair experience that I will recommend to a lot of people, and I expect to see a lot more of in the coming months. So once again, just really wanted to say thank you so much, John Bywell. Thank you so much to Game Press, and I really hope that this review makes some of you look up the game, put it on your wish list, pick it up, but give it a go, because I really enjoyed it, and I think you will too. Right, that's me. Very quick one today, But I really just wanted to get this out on release day, and I hope you have a wonderful Friday if you're listening to this on the day of release, and we'll see you tomorrow for more Podmas.
It's Podmas, Christmas time, 30 days, Podmas is here.